Hey, it's Mandee, and I know it's hot outside, but Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler is bringing the holiday cheer with Christmas in July. You know I go to Hand and Stone to relax, recharge, and just take a little time for me. Whether it's a massage or a facial, it's the gift I give myself, and I always leave feeling better. And this month, they are making it easy to share that feeling. During their Christmas in July event, guests can purchase two services at member pricing. That's right, even if you're not a member. And if you are a member, you'll get $10 off service gift cards. So whether you're shopping for someone else or grabbing a little self care for yourself, now is the time. Visit handandstonetyler.com or stop by in person at the Cumberland Shopping Center and take advantage of Christmas in July before it's gone.
Welcome to the Celebrating Women podcast, hosted by Mandee Montana, a podcast that celebrates women, their stories, their struggles, and ability to overcome. Conversations that celebrate their gifts, their talents, and courage. It's the Celebrating Women podcast, presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. With over 20 massage therapists and 6 estheticians certified and trained in multiple protocols, you can get an affordable massage or facial located right here in the East Texas area. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in the Cumberland Shopping Center in Tyler or online at handandstonetyler.com. Hey, it's Mandee Montana, and today I'm sharing a replay of an episode that still resonates deeply with me. In this conversation, Ashley and I dive into imposter syndrome, what it looks like, how it's shown up in our lives and businesses, and the surprising ways it can hold us back. We were inspired to have this discussion after listening to another podcast that brought the topic front and center. If you're a business owner, leader, or simply someone striving for growth, you'll find lots of great nuggets in this one. Whether you felt the sting of self-doubt or questioned your worth despite your wins, this episode will remind you you're not alone. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to the Celebrating Women podcast. I'm Mandee Montana.
I'm Ashley Fisher, and Mandee and I it's just us right now in the studio, and I have finished my coffee. She's still working on hers.
This is my second.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so today we are going to be talking about, I think, something that if you'll give it a minute, it could be really good. Like, I'm really excited about it because it's been something that's been really on my mind since the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. But I listened to a podcast recently about imposter syndrome, which is a term that's kind of been thrown around a good bit here in the last few years. It's been a little bit more of a trendy or on-trend term.
I think we've brought it up on a couple of previous podcasts, kind of in passing or as an aside.
Yeah, but there's some real, reality and grit to it that I think impacts us all at some point. And so I shared the podcast with Mandee, and
is it The Leader's Cut?
Is that Leader's Cut by Preston Morrison.
Okay, that's his name.
And we were both just talking about how the episode in itself has some things that really are challenging, but then the end of it is just ugh.
Yeah, it's like a balm.
It really is. I actually ended up messaging him and saying that healed something in me that I had no idea needed to be healed. So thank you. And he responded back very kindly. He's very kind. But anyway, so we're going to break down imposter syndrome a little bit.
Just to lay it out there, we're not experts on this.
Not even a little bit.
No, we may have both felt it at some point.
Yeah.
And it did. I appreciate what you said about it challenging. It stepped on my toes a little bit in some ways. And, I was sharing with Ashley off mic just before we started. The podcast that I've been listening to over the last year, I listen to a lot of women. I don't listen to men very often. And I had this funny reaction immediately. I should say, I was listening to this podcast at 1.5 speed because it was about an hour and 22 minutes. Yeah. And I needed to compress the time last night. And so it felt a little jarring to have a man speed talking to me with scripture. It was like, why is this man preaching so hard at me?
He is a pastor. He is the pastor at Pillar Church in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Yes.
I
realized that's what I asked for it. That was the funny thing was but this is this is what I wanted, I think.
He now, and to be honest, it took me a couple of episodes to get used to his voice and the way he talks. And now
He's authoritative.
he is, but
it's in a good way.
it is. And now I kind of to the point where sort of, this is embarrassing, but it's a little I had to check myself. Am I listening to this because this is really his voice is deep.
Oh, you like the sound of it, the quality and the tone. Yeah.
I really love the sound of his voice. And I just realized that I just like the sound of his voice. But you know what just dawned on me? You saying a man preaching it to you. I only listen to men.
Ah, yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
I get a little if a woman starts kind of chopping at me a little bit, I don't like it.
I haven't listened to anything, I guess, that's really... I've listened to some things that challenge me from women, but it's not in the same way.
Well,
so I've been listening to conversations among women, this podcast is just Preston.
Yes.
So it's not a conversation. He doesn't have a guest. It's just basically him preaching. And honestly, Ashley, I haven't been to church with a male pastor in a lot of years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've watched Stephen Furtick online. It's not that I haven't been exposed to it. It's just not something that I've been drawn to.
Yeah.
And so it was I had to sort of just adjust. And then I paused and I thought about it and I was like, why does this feel uncomfortable?
Look at that self-awareness.
Well, I mean, it's just, I like to think, I just like to think about things. And then I was like, maybe this needs to feel uncomfortable. Maybe uncomfortable is a place that I need to be in right now to challenge myself. And some of the things he said, I really agreed with. I loved the end, but there were some pieces in the middle where I was like, I understand why he's saying this. And I feel like it's appropriate for him and it's appropriate for some people. And I don't know if I want this to apply to me. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but it did make me think, which I appreciate.
That's great. I think that with anything that we are digesting, we've got to eat the chicken and spit out the bone, And so I think that's just what you were doing. And I want to say, when I say that I don't always love when women are listening to women and that kind of thing. It's not women pastors or women. It's just honestly kind of women in general when they're, I don't know. I just gravitate more towards men. So that has nothing to do with the preacher pastor role for anybody who's does she not? Yeah. We're not going there.
I figure it's just it's a comfort level thing. It was with me, right? It was just uncomfortable. But then I just was like, okay, let's be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah. And so imposter syndrome is when you walk into a room and you feel kind of unworthy or you feel like, how else would you describe it?
Maybe, okay, so Mean Girls, for example, the movie, when Katie first walks into that cafeteria and she can't find a place to sit at a cafeteria table because she feels like she doesn't fit in, right? That's kind of this, which clearly that character is a bright, talented, charismatic human. But when you first walk in, when you're a new student in a room, you feel uncomfortable. I think it's like that, except that you're not the new student.
Right.
You're walking into a room, but you don't necessarily feel like you live up to, or that you're a part of a certain social standing, or maybe that you think everybody's smarter than you or dresses better than you, or you just feel less than.
Somehow you just feel like you shouldn't be there when you should be there. You belong there, but for whatever reason you feel like you don't. And I think it's so interesting because for me, I talked about it a little bit, from the beginning of this year. I've had a little bit of the yips with my photography business. And I think I realized what happened. In the 10 years that I've had my business, I have really not looked around me as I kind of just did my thing. And it worked. I think it's because I didn't have to make a certain amount of money. It just grew organically. It grew
you stayed in your lane.
I did, but I didn't realize that that's what I was doing. And here recently, I found myself looking around
and comparing.
Yeah. And then it was like, oh, crap.
I understand. Similar things have been happening in my business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I was thinking about this morning. I think that when we get so focused on what other people are doing and how good they're doing it, and you truly appreciate their talent or their smarts or whatever, I think that if that begins to make you feel bad about you, I think that's just a signal for, okay, I've got to kind of get my eyes off of them, and I need to just focus inward and focus here and like do my deal. I love that little saying that says, like, you know, a flower doesn't look at the flower next to it in order to bloom. You know, like,
I do too.
It just blooms. It just blooms. And I have seen that.
And an iris is beautiful, and so is a rose.
Exactly.
And they're so different.
Exactly. And and they're both flowers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's 1,000,001 photographers, and they're in those 1,000,001, there's a rose, there's a lilac, there's a whatever, you know, and in anything, moms, businesswomen, you know, singular people, like it's just,
There's a place for all of us.
There is a place at the table, and what we offer ourselves, me personally, Ashley, what I offer, nobody else can replicate exactly what I offer.
Right.
Nobody else can replicate exactly what Mandee brings to the table.
Right.
That's the beauty of human beings.
But I do think and I think to the point on imposter syndrome and us feeling that, we all have moments of doubt where we're doubting ourselves and going, okay, what do I bring to the table?
Yeah.
What is that again? And I think that's where friendships can be really powerful and helpful, and also mentors in your life and people like, is it Preston Morris? Is that his name? Preston Morrison, that can validate and remind us that we do all have our own innate beauty and giftings. And we were talking about something earlier, something that drives me crazy because it's part of my unique gifting, but it's not somebody else's. And so when it shows up, it makes me a little nuts. And then I have to remind myself not everybody has had the training that I have and developed the skills, is Zoom meetings. Like, I've been on Zoom meetings for several years now, before the pandemic even, and I know how to operate the sound and the camera, and I know where to look, and I know how to mute myself, and I know how to use the emojis and the chat feature. And I'll get on sometimes with people who aren't as familiar with it. And I get frustrated with them because they don't know how to mute themselves, and they don't realize that they're not muted. And so they've got all this background noise that's interrupting, and they don't even know to check the chat where I'm privately telling them, please, honey, I know you don't know that you're muted. Will you please mute themselves? They have no awareness of it.
Right.
It's just a pet peeve of mine because I know it. But I was telling Ashley, I was like, I've joked about maybe I should just create a course for Zoom meetings, like how to host and attend a Zoom meeting successfully. But then I have this imposter syndrome that kicks in, and it's like, yeah, but is it really that important? Like, do people really need to hear that from me? Is somebody else not already doing this? It's probably already on YouTube for free.
Here's the thing. We live in a really big world, and there's
That's true.
lots and lots of people, and there are more than ever lots and lots of resources. And I'm sure that if we went on Google right now, we could find a YouTube video on how to properly do a Zoom call or whatever. I could bet
But
money
would they be
that's
as
there.
charming and cute as me?
Exactly. Exactly.
Just kidding.
But that's the thing. You know, what if we all decided, like, oh, well, that's already being done, so I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Like, what if somebody who has really loved their camera for years, and I know that there are these people out there, they're like, there's already so many photographers. Okay, and?
I know. I'm so glad you picked yours up, Ashley. Like, I was thinking about this the other day because my sister-in-law is also a photographer, and she owns her own business, and she's also very talented. Lindsay Steele, also very talented. Multiple photographers that I know in this area, also very talented. But you all do it a little bit differently.
Yep.
Your perspective and the beauty that you capture and the memories that you capture are different. And I appreciate all of them. It's like we were talking about with the different flowers. They're all beautiful. We need them all in the garden.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that you did, because some of the pictures that you've taken of me over the years are some of my absolute favorites. Lindsay's too. And I'm probably going to do something with my sister-in-law because I've never let her before. And I just want to see how she sees me.
Yep.
You know? And but I love all of your giftings.
Yep. And I just think, like, how sad would it be if we
Right.
all looking around and going, oh, well, there's already these flowers, like, but nobody has you.
Right.
And you have something that only you bring to the table. And that's the thing. Like, honestly, as unique as snowflakes are, you know, really and truly every human being and what they bring to the table is that unique, that powerful, that beautiful. Over, you know, this last little freeze, I'm in a couple of photography groups, and I did not realize that you can get so tight cropped in on a snowflake that you see the actual details. I had no idea.
With a macro lens?
Yes. I had no idea how freaking beautiful these snowflakes are. And it just, I don't know. It really was encouraging to me because I thought, okay, you know what? Like, yes, for the first time, it's kind of like I've had my head down, and then it's like I'm looking up and going, oh, wow. There are a whole lot of people who have been doing this just as long as me or longer, and they do this better and they do that better. But I've gotten this far.
Oh, Ashley, but the way you capture families, the way you capture newborns,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so precious.
Yeah.
Like, those are my favorite photos that you do. And I know it's because you can, what translates for me that comes through your portrait photography is love.
Hey friends, it's Mandee. Have you ever wished for a protein drink that's light, refreshing, and crystal clear? Well, the wait is over. Zingular's Clear Protein Plus is finally here. With 20 grams of grass-fed whey protein isolate, 0 artificial sweeteners, and powerful digestive enzymes, this isn't your typical protein shake. It's clean, smooth, and easy on your stomach. Plus the flavors, blue raspberry and frosted lemonade. So good you won't even believe it's protein. I love how refreshing and hydrating it is, especially after a workout or a busy day. No fillers, no bloat, just clean, high-quality protein. Want to be one of the first to try it? Order now by clicking the link in show notes. Zing with Mandee. Subscribe and save to snag 10% off on this and all future subscription orders. Plus, use my code ZINGWITHMANDEE, all one word, to save $10 off your first order. It's all in the show notes. That's Zing with Mandee, XYNGWITHMANDEE. Zing with Mandee to save $10 off your first order. Click the link in show notes. Don't miss out on hitting those daily protein goals. The future of protein is clear.
I feel the love. I feel the love that you have for capturing that moment with that family, and I feel the love that the family has in their comfort level within with themselves and with you in that moment. Like, it translates.
Now you're making me cry.
I don't mean to make you cry, but it's so true. Like, I've tried to think about it for a long time, like what I feel like separates, because it's different. Like, Lindsay's are very playful. I love how playful and bright and fun her photography is.
Lots of life.
Lots of, they're vibrant and they pop.
Yep.
And she's done some other really beautiful, lovely, warm things too. But to me, that's really like, and I think in part it's because I know you so well and I've heard you speak about what made you start and what that experience is like for you behind the lens.
Yeah.
But I feel it whenever I look at your photos. I can feel the love. I'm like, oh, I could tell that was such a tender moment with that newborn. You know?
Yeah.
It's just precious. And I'm not I'm not a newborn fanatic. I'm not the person that's like, give me a baby. That's not me. That's not me. That's other women. That's their gifting. It's not mine. But those photos are just precious.
Yeah. I think, and I'll be honest too, and I think that this can go into imposter syndrome as well for a lot of people. And if maybe we can just go there without sounding weird, but charging your worth.
Oh, yeah. Trying to figure out how to value your work. Yeah, it's difficult.
It's hard because especially I think for some, like I when I got started, I was just like, I feel like everybody deserves to have a good photo of themselves, of their family, and I still feel that way.
And you want to gift it.
I do, and I would if I could.
I know, but your time is valuable and your work is valuable.
And, there are so many people starting out in anything, not just photography, but like I have a friend who does amazing balloons for events. She is like the queen, and that sister gives away more than she makes. And I keep telling her, like, baby, your time is worth something. Because what you say yes to, you're saying no to something else.
Right.
So when you say yes to that balloon arch, you're saying no to however long it takes you, and that's time away from your family. That's time away from getting to clean your house that day, or whatever
or
it
even
is.
just watching your favorite Netflix show.
Just chilling.
Whatever it is, that you need. Yeah.
Yes. And I do believe, and I still, like, there are times when that warrant something being given.
Oh, for
and
sure.
That's always going to be a something that's just part of me.
Yeah.
Like when those times come, it's like, here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a business owner, you can't give your business away. We had Emily Adams here, and she's talked about, how her goal is to really be, she's like, I need to be a better businesswoman and not give everything away. And I think it's great to have a heart for people. And you also have to have
value
for yourself. And I think somewhere in there maybe is a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like, oh, well, I mean, maybe I could just, I don't know, you know?
Not to totally circle back, but it's kind of like what I was talking about with the Zoom course, for example, right? Like there's value to that because some people would like to be better at it, probably willing to pay for it, but because it feels easy for me.
Yes. Okay. Yes. We need to go here. Keep talking.
Because it feels easy for me, it doesn't feel like something that somebody else would value as much, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing for me with speaking. Somebody asked me, what would you charge to MC, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I haven't charged for it in 15 years.
Yeah.
And the reason being is if you hand me a microphone and tell me to talk, I can. I forget sometimes. I have to remind myself that is also most people's greatest fear.
Yeah.
That public speaking is right up there with death.
Yeah.
For a lot of people. And it's not for me. I mean, I can BS with, for a long time if I have to.
Yeah.
But I've also been practicing it since I was born, practically, but truly professionally for more than 20 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, I made a lot of mistakes as a middle schooler and a high schooler doing public speaking and embarrassing myself. And there's some great stories there for another podcast.
Embarrassing moments, part 2.
Yeah. It's embarrassing moments with a microphone. I mean,
those are the best.
Oh, man. But you know what I learned through that? I didn't die.
Right.
Nobody actually threw rotten tomatoes at me.
Yeah.
And
you learned.
And I learned and I got better.
Yeah.
And now it's my job.
See, and I think, I think that there are plenty of people who feel like, starting out, it would be understandable having imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
What people maybe don't think about is somebody like us who've been doing this thing for you decades, for me a decade, and I'm just now having imposter syndrome. Well, I must have been just some kind of ballsy getting started. Yeah, I guess so.
But I think you were following a calling too.
Yeah.
And for me, it was similar. I kept being invited into these situations. I was being called into it. It wasn't like I got up on a stage with a microphone because Mandee wanted to.
Right.
And I think that was a big point that Preston made in his podcast on the Leader's Cut when I was listening was, in regards to imposter syndrome, a lot of times you feel it when it's your idea and you're not being called to it, when you're not being invited into it. When you're being invited into it or called to it by the Holy Spirit or by someone who sees that gifting in you, or that's a different feeling than I'm going to show you.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Because Mandee thinks she's good at this.
Yeah. And I think that you're going to have you're going to have success in one of those examples and you're probably not going to have much in the other.
Right.
I think this whole idea of, because I've thought about this and haven't fully been able to get my words around it, but you're getting there. And we really need to talk about this. There are things that come so easily to us, to you listening, to Mandee, to me, that we take for granted. Like, right now, I could if I had my camera with me, I could make the best photos of you sitting right there.
Thanks, friend. I know you could. I trust you in that way.
But I take for granted that not everybody could.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, not everybody sees light
Exactly.
the way that you do, or
Yes.
captures expressions the way that you do.
Not everybody knows that moment to look for, you know? With you and speaking, like, not everybody, not many, know how to work their voice, know how to work a room, know how to do those things. And I think sometimes the things that come the most natural to us are the things that we take most for granted.
Amen.
And I think that that's where we lose our sense of our uniqueness and our gifting, because we're taking it for granted because it comes so easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that we haven't had to work our tails off for it.
No, but having an element of gratitude for it is important.
Like, what do you bring to the table? Well, what are your giftings? What comes really naturally for you that maybe you can just see, like, oh, that doesn't actually come naturally to everybody.
I got invited to help my sister-in-law with her booth at a bridal expo last weekend, and I had so much fun. And it was I was so nervous about it, though. I don't know that it was imposter syndrome, but it was weird because I had never done this with her before for her business. So she owns Complete Weddings and Events. So they do photography, videography, DJ uplighting, coordination, all kinds of things.
Yep.
It's like your wedding in a package sort of thing. But she asked me if I would come work the booth with her. And I was like, well, I don't know anything about her packages. Like, I don't know what she charges for any of this. So I had all this doubt and fear that I was going to say the wrong thing or not represent her well. I get there and she hands me an iPad and she says, the number one thing I need you to do is get people to fill out this form, which is basic information for them to follow up after, just to see if they're interested in services.
Yeah.
And tell them if they fill out this form that they're entered to win a premium photography package.
Yeah.
And I just giggled inside because what did I do for 20 years as a radio personality, standing in the parking lot of the, car dealership or R&R Tire or wherever, is I had people fill out a form to win a prize.
And you're like, this is my wheelhouse.
And talk to them like they're a person.
Yes.
Ask them questions about themselves and make them feel comfortable.
Which is why she had you, because she knew you weren't going to stand there off to say, you need to fill out the paper. You were going to engage the people, which means they're going to walk away remembering their experience and they're going to go, oh, yeah.
She was friendly.
I liked them. Meanwhile, when they go down the way and they talk with another company that does the exact same thing, but they were a little colder or they just weren't as personable, they're going to go, eh.
Or they were looking at their phone and weren't engaging and looking somebody in the eye.
Yep.
And it was just so funny because afterwards, and I think when you are in your gifting or in something that you're natural at or practiced at, afterwards you have this wonderful glow and feeling, right?
Yeah.
I felt so at peace and so joyful leaving there.
Yeah.
And I did this for free because I love her. It's not like she was paying me to be there or whatever. And it was fun for me.
Yeah.
I don't remember all of those people's names, but there are a couple of individuals that, and especially the moms of the brides, that while the bride was doing something else, I just engaged with them in conversation and got to see the pride that they had in their daughter and this joyful moment that they were about to enter into. And they didn't have to be stressed for a minute because that can be a stressful process too.
Listen, that's everything.
Right. And it was just those little moments that I captured throughout the day. And I was just like, this is such a blessing. And so it's one of those moments where I felt nervous going in. I was like, I don't work for her. I don't know her business. But what I realized after the fact was what I do know is people.
Yep.
I know how to talk to people, and that is a gift.
Yeah, it is. And I think that, again, I think it's good and smart to know your market, know what's out there. I think that's just part of smart business. But I think when we begin to drown in that is when we need to take a minute. I've got some groups that I need to get out of on Facebook because I just need to it's not helpful. It's just not helpful. They make me so aware of how many fish are in this sea.
Okay.
Because I've never been one to, like Bradley, for instance, at the beginning of the year, he's always been, what goals do you have this year for AFP? I'm like, babe, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm enjoying it. I want to keep enjoying it. So don't make me like get a quota.
You just have different perspectives.
Yes. And I've never been one to go chase after business. I just haven't. I've let it come to me, and it's always been exactly the amount that I needed and wanted and all that good stuff. And at the beginning of the year, I thought, you know what? I don't know if many people really know that I do weddings. And the way that I'm approaching weddings this year has me excited to do more. Because
that's good.
Typically with the kids that have been so young, I've not wanted to take on very many because those days are long. The editing is long after. And so I've only taken a handful each year. But I'm working smarter, not harder. And I'm adding to my team. And so, now, like when I do a wedding, you've got me and you've got this team. And so the days are not going to be quite as long for me. The editing will still be a lot, but I can do that when I need to do that. It just is going to help me work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to go see. I've never even looked. Like, I bet there's groups on Facebook for brides who are looking for photographers. Oh my word. And these are like Texas wide, East Texas. I'm looking for a photographer and our wedding date is such another.
I want to pay $200 for it.
Listen.
I'm sorry.
Y'all.
There's a reason Mandee no longer DJs or photographs weddings, even though she has skills to do both.
Yeah, what is that phrase? Let's see. Good photography ain't cheap and cheap photography ain't good.
It's the same with your nutritional supplements, in case you were concerned.
Oh, doesn't that feel good to say out loud?
It does. Good things aren't cheap and cheap things aren't good. In general. Occasionally you'll find somebody that's generous or a gift or a good deal on something. Yes, all those things are true. And
so I have and then also commenting on those posts, you are literally a drop in a bucket.
Oh, girl, leave those groups.
And I'm like, I just cannot. I mean,
I think you should leave.
Feel it. And so it's been on my kind of back of my mind to-do list, like, get out of that, because I don't even need to look at that.
No. And people just don't understand. I know we've talked about this some previous episodes, but somebody who's not been in that world and has not been an entrepreneur or even had a side hustle, and that's a fair amount of people.
Yeah.
They really don't have an understanding of the value and time that goes into it. I read a post, I'll have to find it because it's worth sharing, but it was a post about a musician who was being booked at a bar. And he was going to charge X amount of dollars. And the bar owner was like, oh, I really just don't think you're worth that. And he was like, okay, well, if you want to play your own music, you can rent my equipment for this amount. And then the guy was like, okay, well, that sounds reasonable. And then he was like, all right, and then you'll need the music. So do you want to rent this music for me as well? It's going to be this amount. And he was like, yeah, okay. And he was like, well, and you're going to have to curate that playlist ahead of time. So do you need help with that? Because that's going to be this amount. And then he starts adding and adding and adding and adding. And then it turns out it's actually less expensive to hire the musician to play.
Exactly.
And he's the professional.
Yeah. And I want to reiterate too, maybe this is for our entrepreneurs, business owners today. There's a lot of chatter, and there's always going to be chatter about, oh my gosh, how expensive is this? That's just ridiculous. And blah, 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 blah. And it's because most of the time when someone is making a comment like that, they really don't understand what they're paying for. Like,
True.
And listen, I get it. I really do. But like, I've had people through the years, thankfully not very many. Really, I'm thinking of one example. This was years ago, she had a 30-minute session. And at the time I was not charging hardly anything. And I remember she just made a side comment of, well, I wish I could make this much money in 30 minutes. And I had to just go and smile and go, okay, so we're going to come over here. Okay, get with Dad and just do the session and, whatever. She thinks that what she paid for
was just that 30 minutes.
Was 30 minutes. Has no idea that the statistic is for every 1 hour of shooting, your photographer does another 9 hours of work. And that's combination of back office, that's editing, that's education, that's all kinds of stuff, you know.
Invoicing, driving to get there, purchasing equipment, maintaining equipment. There's so many
Say it
pieces
louder
to
for
that.
the people in the back. Yes.
There's so many pieces to that puzzle. I mean, there are with the podcast too.
Yes.
I mean,
oh man, y'all listen.
I was I'm talking with a friend about creating another one totally different from this, but it'll be fun, and I'll probably share about it later. But he was asking me, you know, it's about editing process. And so like if this episode is 45 minutes, I do the editing for the podcast. It will take me roughly 90 minutes, twice as long to edit the podcast. I love it. I want to do that.
Yeah.
That's part of the value that I provide to the podcast, and it's part of my passion and my skill set. And it's a part of my time.
It is.
You know?
It takes a big chunk of time.
Yeah.
And I think all that to say,
I'm glad I love it.
I mean, listen, you know, I had somebody recently say, have you ever thought about just having your editing thrown off onto like, so you're just shooting? And I'm like, I'm not one of those people that hates editing though. That's where I feel like I'm an artist at a canvas. I love it.
Well, you gave me the option to pass off the editing of our podcast to somebody else when I was in a pinch in Jamaica.
Yeah.
And I really wrestled with it.
Yeah.
Because it would be nice
Yeah.
to like take a vacation and not think about it. But I also care so much that it's hard for me to let go of it. And I wrestled with that. I was like, is this a control thing? Like, what is going on in me? Like, do I not want to let go of this? Or do I just care that much? And this is like my baby and I want to nurture it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And at some point I might pass it off. I might be ready to like let it go. But we're like, I think 47-ish episodes in
Gosh, that's
now.
so wild. That's so wild.
And it just feels, it's still so close to
It's
our
my
hearts.
It's our baby.
It's our little baby. Yeah.
Well, and I think, again, you know, for those that maybe, I'm really hoping right now that there is somebody listening to this who you have been waffling back and forth on, should I raise my prices? Yes, you should.
Oh, you know who should raise her prices is my manicurist,
Really?
Chelsea. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And she's so much less expensive than other places that I've gone. She does a better job. We have the most joyful, wonderful conversations. She will listen to this episode at some point and she'll be like, because she's a fan.
Yeah.
And she always asks me how you are and how the podcast is going and
So
how your other
sweet.
podcast is going. I mean, she's
Oh my
just,
gosh, that's so sweet.
yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And yet
Not
I pay
charging
her
enough.
less than I paid at the big place with lots of people where I can walk in and have them done whenever.
Yeah.
And my nails peeled 10 days later. You
Yeah.
know? Anyway, so Chelsea, if you're listening, Sam is right. You should raise your prices.
Yeah. And
I'm happy to pay them.
And listen, when I say this, I too am aware of what things look like at the grocery store right now.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And as a business owner, y'all, I am very cognizant of that. So nobody is out to
Get you.
Most people are not out to price gouge and like get you. You have to like, so all that to say, this is not raise your prices so you can make a bunch of money. It's raise your prices so that you can honor yourself and honor your time and honor your gifts and your talents. So for the person that's been struggling with that, that was for you.
And also, you have to pay for your groceries.
That's right.
Entrepreneurs have to pay for their groceries too. There's a reason that they charge certain things.
Yep.
They-
and their
they have bills
taxes
to
are
pay.
a lot more interesting too, y'all. So
There's advantages and disadvantages. That actually would be an interesting episode for the future for somebody who wants to nerd out on finance. For entrepreneurs, maybe that's just a special aside and not a traditional Celebrating Women podcast episode. But I could definitely use some coaching in that area.
Yeah.
I think that personal finance is something that is not well taught.
yes.
It's not taught in schools.
Nope. But we know that my plus x equals b, or what was it?
I don't know.
A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Do you know how many times I've needed the Pythagorean theorem
Never.
since I graduated high school?
Never.
Never. But
Yeah.
you know how many times I've needed to balance my checkbook?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's a bigger conversation probably for a different day, but I would like to dig into that. I've got some people in mind that I think would be fun to have on that could maybe make it playful too. But
Yeah.
I think that's an important piece to the puzzle of entrepreneurship is not only knowing how to value your business and operate your business like in the black, or however you're doing that to manage your taxes, but also how to manage your taxes.
Yeah.
And how to pay yourself.
Yes.
And are you working for yourself? Because I was having this conversation with a group of women that I'm masterminding with. Every one of us in this mastermind at some point has been an employee, and we are all now entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It's a hard shift to make because when you become an entrepreneur, you are employing yourself.
Yeah.
So you also have to be the person that is holding yourself accountable, and you have to account for yourself.
Yeah.
Like you can't not pay yourself for your time.
Yeah.
And yet in the beginning, there's a lot of that often.
Well, and listen, a few years ago, I think it was 3 years ago now, I raised my prices and I changed how I structured my pricing. It was like pulling teeth for me to do it this way. But what did it for me was, number one, a client friend of mine who I've known since elementary school. I photograph their family at least once a year, if not twice. And he looked at me and he said, Ashley, you are not charging enough. This is ridiculous. And I took that. He's a great business person himself. And I thought, okay, well, that's something. But what really did it was, for whatever reason, that conversation stuck with me. And then at the end of that year, when I had to do my taxes, I realized that what I had done was the equivalent of give away everything.
Yeah, you broke even.
Money came in, and it
went
might
out.
as well not have, because between taxes and just keeping up with the stuff you have to keep up with business-wise, I gave it all away. And I thought, well, we can't be doing that because it takes me away from my kids enough to where, we're not going to do that, you know?
Right.
And so I've structured it now to where I can meet a variety of needs. Like if all you have to spend is this $350, great. You're going to have a fantastic session and you're going to get 10 digital images that they're high resolution. You can download them. You can go get them printed wherever you want, because I'm not going to micromanage how you do that. And if your budget is a little bit more, you can get more images. And by the way, I keep your thing in the gallery for like ever, so you can go back and get more later.
Oh, do you still have mine somewhere?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I'm
fun.
sure.
Okay, we might have to dig on that later.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure I do. I really need to go in there and I need to send out lots of emails and say, your gallery
Archive.
is going to expire. Just go download them. But
Yeah. That
anyway.
was years ago.
But you know, when you really sit down and you do the math for yourself, like you've got to figure out how much do you need to make per hour, you know, to like be making something. We must be talking for the business owners today.
It's what's coming up.
It is. But okay, here's the thing we can kind of end on maybe. If you're dealing with imposter syndrome, you and I have both dealt with it. How have you gotten yourself out of that mindset
Oh, geez.
in the past? What have you done specifically?
I've been honest about it and told someone that I trusted how I was feeling, and they've woken me up. And I think I may have, I know I've shared this with you. I don't remember if I shared it on a podcast or not, but I know I've shared it with you personally. I was dealing with some pretty nasty imposter syndrome a couple of years ago when the pandemic was happening and nobody could go to restaurants, go to bars, travel, anything. We were all stuck at home, right?
Yeah.
In the network marketing industry, it was an opportunity where people had time because they were stuck in their houses to make money online. And we were receiving stimulus checks and had money to spend, but we couldn't spend them in all the places I just mentioned, right?
Right.
So people were purchasing things online.
Yeah.
So what happened within our particular company is we grew 600% in 12 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it was massive, massive growth. I was already on a steady growth prior to that because I was operating my business well and I'm good at what I do.
Yeah.
Then that happened. Well, when you have a spike like that sometimes in business, then you typically have a massive drop off for some reason or another because your operational systems fail. And that's essentially what happened was we weren't able to get the ingredients we needed to make enough products to fill the demands of the orders.
Right.
So we had shipping problems, just like furniture
Everybody.
stores and everybody else did. but it left a really nasty taste in the mouth of people in general surrounding our industry, because some people think it's a scam in general. There are a lot of, I mean, if you want to go Google it and be entertained, go look up at all the MLM scam haters on the internet.
Yeah.
And I understand where they're coming from to some degree. There's a lot of people that get into it thinking it's a lottery ticket and that you don't have to work and then suddenly you're going to get free money. Not the case.
Yeah.
It is work.
Yeah.
I happen to enjoy it. All of that happened. Okay. So massive spike, massive drop off. All of a sudden, I started doubting whether I was good at it. I never doubted my products. I knew my products worked. I knew my story worked. But I doubted if I could rebuild. And I had this story in my head that I was telling myself that nobody wanted to talk to me because they were afraid I was going to try to sell them my nutritional supplements.
Yeah.
And I had lunch with the beautiful Lindsay Steele one day, and we were talking about all kinds of things. And she asked me how my business was, and I told her. And I felt so weird about it because I had this terrible story in my head. We finished lunch, we walked over to our studio, and I was just in awe of all the fun portraits and everything hanging up. And then I finally just told her, I was like, Lindsay, I was so scared to ask you to lunch. And she was like, why? And I said, because I was afraid that you see me now as a salesperson who was having lunch with you to sell you something. And she was like, Mandee,
Love her.
I love her. And she went so high pitched, and it was just such this like complete opposite, oh my gosh, reaction of I've never seen you that way in my life.
Yeah.
I know you do that, but that's not how I perceive you.
Yeah.
And it woke me up. And I still struggle with it from time to time, but when I do, I remember that conversation with Lindsay, and I hear her in my head going, Mandee, no. And it helps me laugh it off because I recognize then that it's just, Satan or whatever in my head going, you can't do this. You can't do this.
Yeah.
You can't rebuild. You can't do this. When I know I can.
And at some point, y'all, if he working that hard to make you doubt yourself, that ought to be your clue. Like, oh, you know. And you may not know everything, but you know enough to know I've got something here. And let that fuel you, I don't know. I think that some of it too, I feel like is
what about
healthy.
You? Have you found kind of a trick for yourself to
No.
overcome it?
No, I haven't found a trick. Because I think I'm still very much processing through it.
Do you think talking about it helps though?
Yeah. Like
I do too.
this conversation,
Yeah, me too.
even just that little bit that you like talking about my work, it's like, oh,
Yeah. Girl, your work is magical.
well, I appreciate that. I do.
It's true. I hope you're receiving this as truth.
Okay.
I know it's not easy sometimes, but
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
And I think too, when, life has been really wild this last year.
Yeah, you have had a fair amount of personal challenges.
Yeah, and also a lot of amazing things. This podcast, and then the other podcast, and the direction that things are going in there, and some exciting things down the pike there. I think too, I'm realizing it's just not as simple as it was either. Because before it was photography and family, and now it's family, photography, and celebrating women, and lipedema mamas, and some other stuff going on there that's hopefully going to be good and helpful. And it's just not
I'm giggling because people like in my sphere, like in your 8,000 jobs that you have, Mandee.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm like,
Exactly. It's just a lot. And so it's gotten more complex. It's gotten a little, but I love that too.
It's
I
challenging.
I
like
love
a good challenge.
It is. And I think too, sometimes I worry, like I don't post too much about, I'm trying to get better about posting about our podcast on my Facebook. I'm terrible.
Same, girl, same.
I'm terrible. But I think it's because for years on my Facebook, it's been either my family or it's been photography. And I feel like it throws people off when they go, oh, she's doing something else. I'm doing all. I feel like
I see what you're saying.
I feel like they might think like, oh,
that you
I
quit
guess
photography.
Yes.
I've encountered a little bit of that too with the nutritional supplements, a lot of what I posted for years was before and afters of people and whatever. And I don't post those as much anymore. I post them in certain places, but not so much on my wall.
Yeah.
And so I've had people reach out and be like, are you still doing this thing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I guess I should tell people again. Like I forget.
Yeah.
Because I'm still doing this thing.
Mm-hmm. And so which maybe I just need to give people a little bit more credit, but I also I made a decision years ago. I remember sitting down with Jacqueline Peterson, who was my upline when I was doing Unique, when I had Jackson. And she was talking about her passion for the business and how she loves getting to empower women. And it was a very clear fork in the road. All right, I'm either going to really focus on photography or I'm going to focus on this. Mm-hmm. And I focused on photography. Mm-hmm. And I remember feeling like it needs to be a single focus on Facebook so that people understand this is what I'm doing. So I think that I've kind of gotten to where
because you made that decision, you feel like you need to stick to it kind of thing.
Almost.
And so it's felt weird to try and add.
At least on Facebook. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like that's where people are familiar with me. They're used to me either posting about my kids or Bradley or photography. And I feel like to throw something, I posted about a live that I did yesterday about inflammation and about the impact on your body and this testing you can do to see which foods are, we've talked about that too. And if I'm just looking at engagement, I'm I feel like it throws people off because it's wait, you mean you're not taking pictures? I don't understand. What do you mean you're doing something else? And it's well, doing this doesn't take my attention away from my business. You know what I mean? So there's just a little bit of fear I'm having to work out in I am doing all of these things. And so I can share all of these things and hopefully people don't get scared that oh, I guess she's just not doing as photography as much.
I know that your photography business grew organically and not just because of Facebook. It also grew because you're incredibly talented and word of mouth is the best form of advertising. I've been in and around media for 20 years and word of mouth is still, I will tell you, the best form of advertising. When somebody gives you a personal testimony face to face, like I just did about my manicurist, she's amazing. You have to book an appointment. You can't just walk in. But she's worth it. That kind of advertising is the best you can possibly get. And so, we both are leveraging social media for various things like a lot of people are. But my point being, people that see your work and know your work and your clients, your photography business will continue to grow because you continue to produce great work.
Well, I appreciate that.
It's true. I don't think you should worry about the distractions. I think share all of you as much as you want to and just watch it.
Yeah.
And just be aware. And if something doesn't feel good, if you feel like it feels wrong after you've tried it several times, then change.
Yeah.
It's your prerogative. It's your profile.
Yeah.
It's your page,
Yep. Well, yeah. So no fast and easy answer. I think I just go back to, for me, it's been hey, you've seen such great growth and success so far. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Can we circle back and end with and I'll put the link to the podcast in the show notes for sure, to the Leader's Cut with Preston Morrison. Can we just end with what he ended with a little bit on that identity piece? Because I think his full circle comment on his podcast came back to knowing who you are.
Yep.
And I think too, that's what Lindsay was showing me when she had that. She was reflecting it back to me, right?
Right.
She was reflecting back to me who I am, which is a genuine person who truly has a servant heart that wants to help people. It feels really weird for me to say that, but it's true. That's who I am.
No, but you need to own that.
Right. And I think because it is powerful is probably why it feels a little uncomfortable, right? Because it's a powerful piece of who I am.
Yeah.
But that identity piece,
it's huge.
It's so key. And maybe we talk about that and explore it more in a longer podcast. But I know it really hit home with you and it did with me too.
Yeah, it did. I think going back to, he reiterated at the beginning and then at the end that kind of like what we were saying as far as you're the only you that there is. You're the only you that can bring what you bring to the table. And there is a lot in that sets you apart and like makes you special and that you need to kind of like lean into. And the biggest statement that he kept saying over and over and over again and he was talking about God and talking about how he's formed us, is he said, you are his choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that just like, it just did something in me. It just did. I could get emotional. Ugh. But, you know, thinking out of all of the billions of people in the world, you are his choice. In the roles that you're in right now, being the mama that you are and being the woman that you are, the business owner that you are, the wife that you are, you're his choice in those settings. Nobody could fulfill that role as good as you can.
I loved how he talked about the father relationship there too, in that choice and in that calling and that piece where he was like, you know, the relationship between you and God and that father relationship is so unique and so different, protective and encouraging and supportive and loving. And I got a lot out of that piece of it. And also that it's a friendship relationship too, that element of it where you can be who you're called to be.
Yeah.
And know that you are loved and
Yes.
supported and protected. And what is the word I'm looking for? I guess it's supported, but just that, provided for.
Provided for. Ooh, yeah. Because that's the thing, isn't it? We get scared because we start looking at a bottom line or we start thinking about numbers. And that is something I think I unknowingly knew in the first 10 years of my business that has been poked on a little bit. I just trusted. And it always turned out. I was always provided for.
That's what I went to sleep with last night. I was struggling with some things personally. And after having listened to that podcast, the last thing that I was thinking about kind of as I drifted off to sleep was how thankful I am that I have always been provided for.
Yeah.
And just that beautiful thought of why am I doubting? I've always been provided for. Why would I doubt that?
Yeah. It would almost be as crazy as a toddler fearing, am I going to eat tomorrow?
Right.
When every day from the very beginning of time that baby has eaten, not missed a meal, like that's how he provides for us. You know, like it is. And I think too, when we slip over into this imposter syndrome is when we start trying to take control.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
He goes into that. And there were pieces where I felt like my toes were being stepped on a little bit because I do have that element of independence and want to take control and not trust.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, kind of in the beginning, it was an uncomfortable listen for me for a lot of it, but I think it's important for us, and to your point about being challenged, it's important for us to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I had some moments of that last night, and I'm thankful for them. And so I appreciate, you having this conversation with me, people listening to it. And I think that if you want to listen at the regular speed, I think I'll listen again at the regular speed. I just needed to get it all in last night really quickly. I think there's a lot of really goodness there and maybe some things to think about too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. Thanks, friend.
Thank you.
The Celebrating Women podcast wants to hear from you. Email us a voice message to celebratingwomenpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your story or the story of an incredible woman you know. Become part of the conversation on social media. Facebook.com/celebratingwomenpodcast. On Instagram, search Celebrating Women Podcast. The Celebrating Women podcast has been presented by Hand & Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in Cumberland Shopping Center or online at handandstonetyler.com. Support the show for as little as $3 per month at celebratingwomenpodcast.buzzsprout.com or visit our show notes. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the Celebrating Women podcast.